What's going on, everybody? It's Erica with Not Your Average EDC, and today we are going to sharpen the Spyderco Native 5 Salt in LC200N steel for the first time ever. I have been testing this for the whole month consecutively. It's only been stropped 2 times. It doesn't even need this sharpening, but I mentioned in one of my previous videos that I want to sharpen it at some point so that I can get some sharpening experience in there for testing purposes. And yeah, so we're gonna try sharpening this on a 1000 grit Naniwa stone, a Waterstone. So this is the box, 1000. It's a really fine stone, but I also don't know if I need to use a rougher stone beforehand or not, so we're gonna try the 1000 grit and hope for the best. I think this will work, but I've never sharpened the steel, so I don't know if it needs something more coarse or not. Hopefully this works. I've had my stone soaking for about 15 minutes. These finer stones don't have to soak as much as the coarser stones, but just to be safe, it's been soaking for 15 minutes. We're going to sharpen this, and then when I finish sharpening on that Waterstone, we will do a few passes on this strop. This is loaded with white compound, white marbles compound. It is a medium cut compound, and it removes steel pretty quickly. It's fairly rough, so I just want to leave it at that. I don't really want to lose my tooth and bite on this knife, so this is as far as we're going to go today. Yeah, let's get to it. I just heard my phone go off, and it might be important, so give me 1 second. Okay. It is absolutely not important. It's my friend saying she's bringing funny clothes to change into tonight after the bonfire. Jesus. Okay, so just a couple of things before we start. I've already cleaned my blade off with some acetone to remove any sticky tape residue and stuff from work. Don't want that getting into my stone. Don't want it getting in the way. I have a spray bottle here with just pure water. Some people use soap mixed in on certain stones. With water stones and ceramic stones and stuff, I just like to use pure water. I will angle you guys down so you can see what I'm doing, and I also just want to give a quick message to people. Waterstone sharpening is much different than sharpening on a DMT stone, a diamond stone, and I'm going to make a whole video dedicated to the pros and cons of both stones because I have both, and in my opinion they are very, very, very different. So I will make a dedicated video on when and why you should use a ceramic stone or a water stone, and when and why you should use a DMT diamond stone. That'll be coming up soon. It'll be very detailed. So if you have any questions in regard to those things, just hold off until I put that video out because I'm probably going to answer them, okay guys? So let's hop right into it here. Let me angle you guys down. If I can get this to let go. There we go. Now this is kind of like my first go around with Japanese Waterstones, guys. They just came in last night. I bought them a little while ago. I didn't really have the money for it, so I ended up picking up a few days, doing a side job, taking care of some dogs, and I make really good money. So I saved up my money doing that side job on top of my regular job so that I could pick up a few of these for the channel. I thought it would be really cool to try them out. So this is what it looks like. It's absolutely beautiful. And I will give you guys all of the prices, the price differences, all that on that other video, okay? I want this to really be focused on the actual sharpening. So if you have any questions, just hold off for a little bit until I do that other video, all right? Okay, so we had our stone soaking for like 15 minutes. The water goes pretty quick on these, and you don't have to have it like saturated all the time. It would be impossible. They just soak up water like crazy. So we're just gonna get started here. I have created a very small sharpening choil on this. Can you guys see that little tiny choil? That's all I need for this. I'm hoping you can see that. Let me try to bring something in the back here. I hope you guys can see that little tiny choil in there. That'll help me fully contact the stone we're just gonna get started here. And the reason I am moving back and forth is because my goal right now is to remove the factory edge. So I have stropped this 2 times, but it didn't necessarily remove the factory edge, the factory pattern. It was just kind of refreshing the edge. And my goal today is to actually remove the factory edge because I want to kind of see what's underneath. I want to see what happens when we remove that, if it changes the performance of this at all or if it doesn't. So that's why I'm kind of doing, I'll be doing those back and forth movements, trying to kind of work away that factory edge. And hopefully it'll go smoothly. Just taking my time, nice and slow. We don't have to rush. Okay, so this stone is definitely hard enough for this steel. The factory edge is actually already almost gone. So that's really cool. I was not sure if I would have had to drop down to maybe like a 600 grit or 220 or something to move this metal. I really wasn't sure because I just have zero experience with it. But this is absolutely moving the metal, so that's a great sign. This is very easy to sharpen if that's the case. This will be a really easy steel to sharpen. Because 1000 grit is pretty darn fine, guys. It's... Okay, the dogs are freaking out. Like, this stone, if I could explain what it feels like. It feels like... It's so soft. There's barely any grit to it to the human hand. It's almost chalky. It feels so smooth. So this stone is very fine, which means if it's moving this metal on a 1000 grit, that, you know, this steel is not to the level of hardness as something like Maximate, right? Like, this is a little softer in a good way, much easier to sharpen. This will be much easier to touch up. Wow, this is beautiful, guys. This is absolutely beautiful. So I don't know if this front-facing camera is going to necessarily pick this up. I'm going to try, though. Just with this 1000 grit stone, we're already starting to create a little bit of a polished edge here. The factory edge is completely gone already with just those few moments on the stone. I have a burr already, not a big one at all. Like I said, this is 1000 grit. It's not gonna move that steel up like crazy. This is a very fine burr, but I can tell that it moved some steel. It created a brand new scratch pattern, a very fine one. I'll give it a few more swipes and then we're actually already going to flip and do our other side. And that was only a couple minutes, so this is a very nice stone for the price, absolutely. And this is a very nice steel. Wow, that's beautiful. Oh my goodness. That is really nice. So I'm gonna flip and do the other side now. If you do not feel comfortable doing the back and forth motion, you do not have to, guys. For me, that's just the most efficient way to move the metal quickly, and also I've been doing this for years and years. it is not uncomfortable for me, but I do understand that this back and forth, like holding your angle thing, is not for everyone and definitely not for beginners getting into freehand sharpening. But I will say the most important thing is trying not to move your wrist. You're lifting your elbow as you move with the blade. You don't really want to move your wrist. This knife should be kind of locked in to your hand. You are guiding it with your other hand. This is moving, but it's only shoulder movement really, and if you need to get to the tip, you should be raising your arm instead of moving the blade around in your hand, moving your wrist. You really shouldn't need to do that, and that could create a pretty wonky edge if you're not careful. So I highly recommend locking the knife into your hand and really just trying to lift your arm as you go, not making any wrist movements. And I use this hand and specifically my middle finger because if I do this, you guys can't really see from my side, but when I do this, I can see the edge the whole time. I don't want to be covering the blade. I don't want to be covering parts of the edge where I can't see. I want to be able to see what this edge is doing the entire time. That's why I kind of do a deal like that and guide with this finger so I can really see where I'm making contact the entire time. Look at our edge real quick. We've removed most of the factory edge, but we still got some to work off. Now I will say, if this is something that you're interested in doing, do not get nervous if one side takes a little longer than the other. Especially with these mass-produced knives, their edges can be a little off. The width of the edge can be off. Sometimes it can be a little more choppy on one side than the other. Somebody, whoever sharpened it, whoever put the edge on it last, could have been very skilled at doing it on this side, and then when they do it on this side, maybe they're a little off, or maybe it's a little trickier for them. So if it takes a little longer on one side, don't be nervous. Sometimes one side of the edge bevel needs a little more work than the other side, and that's kind of what I'm finding on this right now. Is I can already tell that the side of the edge that I'm working on right now is going to take just a few minutes longer than the first one because the angle of the edge was just a little different than the other side. It's a little thicker actually, and it was also very choppy compared to the other side. But don't be nervous if that's something that you find. You can easily work it out yourself. That happens a lot on Benchmades and Spydercos. Their edge bevels are sometimes not the best, and I noticed that a lot of them need to be kind of redone by a lot of people. That's why it seems like once you really get into the hobby, a lot of people really enjoy getting a new knife and fresh out of the box, just putting their own edge on it, because honestly, sometimes they're pretty rough. On this one, the edge is actually a little thicker and not as steep from here forward, I noticed. So I'm going to pay some extra attention to this area because it needs it. We're just going to constantly check our edge, make sure we're not making it uneven or basically doing anything we don't want to be doing. You really want to just constantly be checking your scratch pattern, making sure You're not overdoing anything or underdoing anything. Yeah, this side needs much more work than the other one to remove the factory pattern. Much more work. It's pretty wild, actually. The side that I'm working on right now is really choppy. Almost there. Maybe I can try to show you guys. I don't know if the camera will pick it up. Per usual. Let's see. Oh, okay. I think you guys can kind of see it. So, see right at the tip, the last inch. Can you guys see how it almost looks choppy? So that's because the edge was, it was a pretty rough grind. It was choppy. So right in this section, you're seeing some waves almost, and I'm trying to remove those. That's the factory edge slowly disappearing, and it was pretty choppy right from the factory. So it just needs some extra care, that's all. Doesn't mean anything's wrong with it. We can easily remedy it. It's just going to take a little extra time to work through that because it was so roughly done. And I'm kind of just, imagine that you're almost like buffing it out. You're buffing out the scratch pattern that was originally there. We're just trying to move it and make it nice and smooth and uniform throughout. But I think a lot of people getting into freehand sharpening, they seem to get discouraged because sometimes they can't make a nice, clean, polished edge very quickly. And you see all of these knife sharpeners, you know, on YouTube and Instagram that are showing off these beautiful polished edges and these absolutely stunning edges, and they sometimes are not disclosing the amount of time it took, and they're not disclosing what the edge looked like before. They're not saying if it was uneven or not. They're not saying how much time it took. They're not saying if they completely reprofiled it. And it's very easy to look on Instagram or look on social media at these beautiful, perfect edges and think, man, why am I not getting that? Why is it taking so long for me to remove that scratch pattern? Why is it taking so long to create a burr? Those are all valid questions, especially if you're only seeing perfection on social media. So that's why I really wanted to make this video, because this knife from the factory, I bought it from a friend, but he clearly had not really used it too much, and it still had the factory pattern, and that's why I wanted to record sharpening this, because I could see right off the bat that the scratch pattern, the grind pattern on one side was just so wonky in comparison to the other side, and I knew it was going to take way more time to remove that. Okay, so it's looking pretty good. There are a few flat spots where they were basically divots in this edge. Too deep, but I really don't want to move too much more steel. We already have like a little micro burr, or I shouldn't say already, we've been sharpening this for a while now. But was I using the box to show the edge last time? So see how it's, you can tell right near the choil, there's just a little bit of a change in that mirror polish. That's where there are just some divots that were pretty deep. The rest is looking really polished and good. Those are just real deep. Those will come out with time too. I'm not as obsessive about my edges cosmetically. I don't care. This is kind of just for content here and for testing purposes. I don't mind that at the very end right here, it is not a complete mirror polish. That's totally fine to me. That'll work itself out with time. With other sharpenings, it'll work itself out. I'm happy with how uniform the rest is. I'm happy with the micro burr on the other side. I think I'm going to finish up on this stone here, and we're going to work both sides. We're going to go back and forth and work both sides now, okay? Because I'm happy with what that's looking like. So now, because we've worked both sides, we are just bringing everything center. We're just making sure that that edge is apexed, nice and centered now. And that's why we're switching back and forth here. Again, just using my middle finger as a kind of a guidance tool and a stabilizer for that tip. Not moving our wrist, just really trying to move only our arm. And if you don't know how to hold your angle, if you guys are just beginning and this is the first sharpening video you're ever seeing, guys, try the Sharpie trick, okay, please, because holding your angle is a whole other video. I'm not going to address this. I'm not going to address that in this video. If you are not even good at holding an edge angle yet, please mark it with a Sharpie. That way, as you go, you can see where you're wearing off your Sharpie, if you're wearing it off in all the right spots or not. Just simply use a Sharpie, and every swipe, check your edge and see if you are removing steel, removing that marker from the correct areas. That's a great way to start. All right, let's see where we're at. That should be plenty good. Ooh, wow. Holy crap. That is a sticky edge. I wonder if you guys can catch the sound. Okay, I'm gonna try to hold it up to the mic here. I hope you guys can hear that. That's me just putting my fingers on. It's making that scratchy noise. That's really toothy. Let's see what it looks like on paper. It could be cosmetically gorgeous and not even cut anything. That could surely happen. So let's just see where we're at with the edge. So that is scary sharp. That is one of the toothiest edges I've ever had. Especially off a 1000 grit, a very fine 1000 grit. Holy smokes, guys. That's nice. Wow. That's beautiful. That is seriously really nice. I'm very pleased with that. However, we're gonna take it one step further just for fun. I'm gonna put my stone back in the water and soak it just so I can remove that metal buildup. See, you can, even on this fine stone, you can see that we removed metal. You can see those two pinstripes right in the middle. That's all metal buildup from our work. So we did remove steel. That's a great sign. Even with this really fine stone. So I'm going to put this back in here, let it soak for a little bit so I can gently rub that buildup off later. And I will go over the entire cleaning regime in the other video that I was talking about. Okay, so when I do the stone video, I'll be talking about how to clean your stones as well, because that's really important to keep them clean so that they cut steel, and you want to make sure that you don't use like hot water, for instance, and stuff. Okay, so we'll go over that in that in-depth video I'm gonna do. Let's bring in our strop here and just do a few passes, okay? Nothing too crazy, because I'm extremely happy with where our edge is right now. I'm really happy with the bite. I'm really happy with the pattern. So this is just to show you guys again some stropping stuff. I really like using these massive ones. It gives you plenty of space to move. Okay? So this, we're working away from ourselves. Away. You do not want to cut into the leather. And we're going to do just a few passes. I really don't want to make our edge too refined, because I really enjoy a nice toothy bitey edge. So we'll do maybe like 10 passes. I'm not applying any weight or pressure. Again, just guiding my edge all the way through so that I contact every point, but I am not cutting into the strop. I am not applying pressure. This is all just letting the leather and the compound do the work for you. Now the good thing is with stropping, it is not as strict. There are not as many boundaries with stropping. Stropping is a great thing to start out with if you don't use your knives super hard and they don't need a ton of touch-up. Because there's way less room to mess up on a leather strop that has flex in it. Granted, this leather's pretty hard, but you know what I'm saying. Like this is not a stone. You're not going to chip your blade. You're not going to accidentally take a divot out of your stone. You're not gonna like significantly mess up your angle or anything like that on a strop. They're very forgiving. You have way more room to practice with one of these. So you may see me moving my wrist with stropping, kind of, I can do it one-handed and move my wrist with a strop. That's, for me, completely fine, because this is not something where I need to hold a completely frozen hand. I can absolutely strop and move my wrist on this, because it's not like you're going to really mess up too bad on a strop. The only thing you could really do is maybe press too hard or use a leather that's too soft and roll your fresh edge. You could literally press in too hard and it could roll the edge over and make it dull again, but I would not do that. I know better than that. So for me, being experienced, I can do one hand, I can move my wrist, I can trail, I can do whatever I want here really, because I know what I'm doing and I'm watching. But if you're new to this, please practice, just being more steady and using your fingers as guides if you're just getting into this. Okay, so we're going to be done with that. I don't want to overdo it. Seems to like this box as a background. Seems to like this box. So as you can see, we have a polished edge. We did an even amount of swipes on both sides. I was doing one, then flipping, doing one. Nice and even. Let's flip this over. Use this as a backdrop. So nice and polished on both sides. Come on, pick it up. There we go. Again, we have just a little bit of those little divots at the very end here from where the factory grind really kind of hit into there pretty good. But aside from that, you can see we still have a mirror come on. We still have a mirror polish all the way through. You just see a little bit of dark spotting right there, which is totally fine. That will not affect or compromise the workability of this knife at all. But nice and polished, okay? Make sure that we did not mess anything up with the stropping. That would be very rare, but we could have rolled our edge. You never know, right? I'm not perfect. Hit that little choil at first. That was that hang up, sorry. So this is like beyond workable. This is a beyond good edge for everyday tasks. This is extremely sharp. Right? That is very, very sharp. Now, granted, this is a 30-minute video with a lot of talking, but if I were to cut out all of the silly stuff, that was, you know, maybe 15 minutes tops. If I had crunched it all together, maybe 15 minutes tops to get an absolutely insane toothy edge. That is gorgeous. I'm sure it'll pop hairs off my arm too. If I have any arm hair, I tend to do this a lot. I like literally don't have any arm hair. Okay, we got a couple, but my arms are basically bald at this point from doing this. That is very sharp, very beautiful. I love this steel so far. Okay. We did it, guys. That wasn't too hard, right? I was gonna try to fix that, but oh well. Okay, so we did it. Not too hard at all. What can we take away from this whole experience? Naniwa whetstones are incredible. Very well priced. You can get them on sharpeningsupplies.com. I order all of my stuff from them if I can't find it through River's Edge Cutlery. Sharpeningsupplies.com has a lot of really specialty stuff too. Great prices. So I got the strop and the stone both from sharpeningsupplies.com. And yeah, if you have a steel like LC200N comparable, you could see from this video that all we needed was a 1000 grit Waterstone and a white compound loaded strop to get an absolutely gorgeous, insane edge on this. That's it, guys. Use your shit. If you know how to sharpen your knives, it will make you use your shit, which is a great thing. I will see you guys on the next video. Love you bunches. Stay safe.